It's 11 o'clock at night, and I know my neighbors have to hate me. As you guys can probably tell, we got 2 massive boxes sent in from Metalcloak today. If you guys have been paying attention to the Jeep here recently, or even looking at the comments, you'll know that this thing has been missing one crucial piece to the puzzle to get this thing all dialed in. What we have inside right here is actually some inner fender wheel liners to cover all that up right there. So Metalcloak was nice enough to send these out. Of course they come in the bare material, so they don't have any paint on them, anything like that. So you can make them your own, or you could just throw them in like that. A lot of people do, but I definitely want to go ahead and paint these before we throw them in. So these look like they are the rear inner fender wheel liners. And as many of you guys already know, with Metalcloak, you get some of the best stuff on the market. They look really good, and the way they came packaged was really nice. They were covered up with bubble wrap and in massive boxes, so they weren't going to get crinkled up or anything like that. And of course, these are custom fit. Then we've also got some hardware right here, some extra brackets, and the actual hardware itself. So the install process is not the easiest. It is pretty straightforward. They have great install videos on their actual YouTube channel, so I will link those down below for the install video for the front and rear. I am going to show you guys how to do it, but mine's going to be more of a brief summary. They tell you the actual tool sizes and step by step exactly what to do, and this is going to be a little different. And then these are going to be the front inner fender well liners. And we do have a couple extra pieces for the fronts. And then we've also got the hardware. So what I'm going to do first is go over all these inner fender well liners with a sanding block. Then we'll take some lacquer over it just to get it ready to be painted. So now that all those are ready to go, I do have 2 different types of paint. They are both the high temperature paints, so rated up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what you need for an inner fender well liner. It is going to get really hot, especially with the 392. This is a flat gray, which I'm going to use as my base coat. And then we've also got a gloss gray, which may be close to what the Rubicon 392 is. The Stingray color, not exactly sure, but I think the base coat of the matte gray will be great, as well as the gloss on top. Should turn out pretty good. I've got to say, for a rattle can job, these have turned out pretty good. Now I'm going to let them cure in the sun for just a little bit, just to let the paint set in. But as you guys can tell, they look pretty darn good. And we'll see just how good they match up once we get them on the Jeep. But as for now, it looks pretty darn close. The first thing we're actually going to do is pull these friction pins out right here. There's 2 of them. And then we're going to trim this piece down. Basically everything that's not the full plastic, we're going to go ahead and cut off, because we're going to be replacing a bracket right there. Also, we need to go ahead and take these friction pins out and go ahead and pull those wires back. We'll be zip tying it to something else here in a minute. For this next step, to get this bracket on, we need to drill out a couple holes a little bit bigger. So we're going to start right here, and we're probably going to have to remove most of this fender flare. I found a way to get around it. I just pulled out these bottom ones, and I'll be able to push this down to be able to get access to this right here. Next, we're going to be installing these little gussets right here. So we'll basically just plug them in and we'll be good to go. Something that is a little different on our 392s is, instead of using these wing nuts for this piece right here, we actually will use our factory bolt. It's already got a nut built into the reservoir. I guess it's not like that on the 3.6 or the 2.0, but it is like that on the 392, so just use that piece. Now, I've already made the pilot holes right up here, but I'm gonna have to drill in a little bit bigger It says to take it to 17-30 seconds. I don't have a 17-30 seconds. I couldn't find one in any of the stores here. So I'm gonna use a 1/2 inch and bore it out a little bit more whenever I need to. But we're gonna test it out and see how that works. Those big pieces are about burning my hands off. I'm gonna get some gloves. So I've got it all put in, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, not having a 17-30 seconds bit held me back quite a bit. I drilled it out to 1/2 inch right here, and it just wasn't enough to fit the nut search. So what I've done for now is put the zip tie in there. I will order the 17-30 seconds drill bit, that way I can install the nut search. But even for now, it's extremely solid. It's definitely not gonna move anywhere. And the color actually ended up matching pretty well. Obviously it's not perfect, but for off the shelf, you can't really beat that. So now we have the fronts all done, and as you guys can tell, the color actually looks really good. I'm about to pull it out into the light, that way we can see what it does look like. Now before I put on the rears, I'm actually heading to the lake real quick. So I'm gonna go to the lake, and then we'll put the rears on whenever we get back. So there it is out in the light, and that color match looks awesome. You can tell it's not exactly the same color, but it is pretty darn close. So for a rattle can job, you can't really beat it. Well, now that we're all done with that, it's time to get the back end looking just like this front end up here. They made it look a bit too easy on their install video, so I'm imagining we're going to run into some issues. So the first thing you'll want to do is grab the hardware that looks like this, and you'll need to put those into these holes right here. They've got square holes, so if you don't already have the Metalcloak fender flares, you're not going to have what you need. So go ahead and put those in, and then you'll also need to take out your friction clips, this one right here. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of fabricating, just trimming up this plastic. That way you have enough room to get that bolt in there. It just simply won't fit the way that these are designed. So what I'm doing to get to these back here on the back side, it's actually using a factory hole or a factory location. I've got a ratcheting socket, and I've taped the back side of it so I can essentially just put the nut right in, and then I can line it up and go ahead and torque it down. It's the only way I can get back there. I can't find another way, but it seemed to work. Well, I decided to just go for it and drill out the holes, even though I don't have really a template to go off of. It's been working well so far, but never want to say that too soon. These back here, whenever you don't have a template, these in the front, they can be pretty tricky because not only is it moving back and forth, but it's on like a fixed point. So it's kind of like a pendulum swinging, and to guess where it's going to be whenever you have it tight, it's kind of hard. So for this, all I'm really doing is just kind of guessing where it's going to be at, which is weird, but it will work. And then after I drill it out with a smaller bit, I just use my chase bit. And where this is actually 2 layers, you do have to go from the outside and then the inside. So that kind of sucks, but it's okay. Well guys, after hours and hours and hours, the front and the rear are now completely done, and I've got to say they look awesome. Now in the back I did have some issues because the only install video I could find was for the actual Metalcloak fender flares already installed. So I did have some issues with that. You kind of have to figure out what you need to do. The only part I didn't put in, there's basically a bolt that should go there. There's an adapter for a plate, and then you tighten it down in 2 different places. I don't need it. I've got this bolt in right here. Got that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. So I think that's enough for an inner fender well liner. Now, yes, I did have to drill this one out. Had to drill that one out on both sides. That was not easy because this doesn't necessarily have a template to just go off of. So you kind of have to guess, and you have to be kind of decent at it. Now the colors actually ended up matching pretty well. I know this blue light messes it up a little bit, but you can see right there, it's gray, so I really do like that, and I think that the look is definitely quite a bit different than what we are used to seeing. More times than not, either they're gonna be bare material or they're gonna be black. But as you can see right here, they look absolutely awesome. Now for the front, like I said, I didn't have the 17/32 drill bit, so you'll see that little gap right there. Whenever I do get that drill bit, I will put the nut certs in. It'll be good to go. But for now, it actually looks just fine. You can't really tell unless I would have told you. A huge shout out to Metalcloak for sending out these inner fender well liners and so much more. I'm extremely excited to continue this journey with Metalcloak and show you guys what they have to offer. So far, we've already done the fender gut kit, we've done the inner fender well liners, the bump stops, and there's much, much, much more to come. So if you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Let me know what you think and let me know what you want to see next. But until then, Godspeed. And yes, I do still have my drag racing numbers on the Jeep. If you guys haven't watched that video, go ahead and check it out. It was a blast.